We're looking at the two grandsons of the late Queen Elizabeth, along with their wives, and now the sons of King Charles III. They're at Windsor Castle there, and they are now looking over all of the beautiful flowers that have been left for the memory of Queen Elizabeth II, just days now after her passing. And now you've got the Prince and Princess of Wales, William and Kate, along with Prince Harry and the Duchess of Meghan there, and they're now all looking through. And just earlier today, you had the sons of Queen Elizabeth and their children who were looking through the flowers very intimately, leaning over, reading the cards that have been left, even tearfully reflecting on some of the beautiful notes that have been left in memory of Queen Elizabeth. And all of this happening as we're also starting to learn more about the events that will take place over these 10 days of mourning, where the Queen will lie in state on Wednesday. The family, of course, will be there, and then the doors will be open for the masses, the public, who will be there to line up to see her lying in state. And now we also have officially a date of the funeral, which will be Monday, September 19th. Our Scott McLean is there at the gates of Windsor. So Scott, what are you seeing there? Obviously, we see in the background behind the barricades, huge crowds. And now they are seeing the grandsons there, along with their wives, looking through the flowers and the cards.
That's right, Frederica. I have to tell you, when these four stepped out of their vehicle, this is not something that anyone had expected. We were told initially that there would be a visit. We assumed that the two working royals, William and Kate, the Prince and Princess of Wales now, would be here. We did not expect to see Harry and Meghan, and we certainly didn't expect to see the four of these together. Of course, there has been a well-publicized rift within the family between these two brothers. Of course, Meghan, the Sussex, and Harry, her husband, they live in California now, and they have made plenty of waves. And you know, plenty of people in this country believe that they've sort of been taking pot shots at the royal family from afar. But when I've spoken to people here since the Queen's passing, they believe that perhaps this moment, perhaps the Queen's death, could be a moment of reconciliation between the brothers, that perhaps prompt some kind of a conversation. Now, obviously, they're together for a photo op right now, looking through these cards and looking at the flowers that have been left for Queen Elizabeth. So it may just be a photo opportunity. It may be something more. The official residence, the UK residence of Harry and Meghan, is Frogmore Cottage, which is on the grounds of the Windsor Castle estate. That's only about 600 yards or so from where Will and Kate, the Prince and Princess, have just moved their family to. In fact, just earlier this week, on the same day that the Queen passed away, it was their kids' first official day of school at their new school, only about 15 minutes or so from here. And as they're looking at these cards and at these flowers, Frederica, I have to tell you, I've done the same. I've read through some of them, and it's pretty remarkable. Some people have left full-page letters. A lot of people have left little notes attached to the bouquets that they've dropped. You've had children. Many of them are clearly written by children. Some children have written pictures. One that stands out to me in particular is someone had left 2 full cans of gin and tonic in honor of the Queen. And most of them, there seems to be a common theme in a lot of these notes that they're going through and reading right now, and that is that they say thank you for your service, thank you for your duty, thank you for carrying out your duties right until the end. The Queen was undeniably seen as a unifying figure in this country, and many of these very personal, very emotional cards and notes really reflect that as well. Of course, some also wish the new king well. I should also point out here, Frederica, that if you had any doubt at all about just how important and just how central the monarchy is to this country, this is a pretty good indication, because this was not an announced or advertised event that you're seeing here. In fact, they had tried their hardest to say very little. Of course, there's some logistical things that come with allowing the heir to the throne to come and mingle with the public, and so they had to set up these barricades about 2 hours ago. But beyond that, the people who've been waiting here had no idea who might actually be coming, why they might be here, but they've waited around now for quite some time, hoping for a glimpse. And as they sort of walk down the barricades here, this is called the Long Walk. This is just outside the Cambridge gate of Windsor Castle, and you can see that there are people, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 people deep, just hoping to catch any kind of a glimpse of the royals. Of course, we saw King Charles mingling with the crowd outside of Buckingham Palace yesterday. We saw Prince Andrew, Prince Edward mingling with the crowd outside Balmoral Castle in Scotland earlier today. And obviously, these 4 are the official residents of Windsor Castle, so it's not perhaps that surprising to see them here. Earlier today, Max Foster mentioned this, Frederica, there was an official statement put out by Kensington Palace, written by the Prince William, and I just want to read something that stood out to me in this note. It said, "I thank her on behalf of my generation for providing an example of service and dignity in public life that was from a different age, but always relevant to us all." And he goes on to promise that he will do whatever he can to honor her legacy by trying to support his father, the king, in any way that he can. We're just going to try to move down here if we can, Frederica, to try to get a closer look. We've been put in this press pen at the moment, but if we can try to move down and see if we can get closer to try to hear, I think it's Harry and Meghan that are on this side of the barricade, to try to hear anything that they might be saying. Of course, we haven't even gotten any official word on their movement. Actually, let's just see if we can get the camera in close, and let's see if we can hear anything. I'm just going to stop talking and put the microphone in if I can.
All right, we're going to try and listen in, Scott, real quick. So if you're just now joining us, again, the Prince and Princess of Wales, William and Kate there, have come out of Windsor Castle. They're interacting with the hundreds, seemingly, of people who are there to mourn the passing of Queen Elizabeth. It started out by the 2 brothers, Harry and William, and their wives, looking at the flowers and the cards that have been left, and now they're actually interacting with the public. And we want to listen in to see if we can actually hear some of that interaction. All right, we had some audio there for a moment, but you could hear, I mean, oh, there we go. You can hear there's some laughter. I mean, there are lots of smiles there that you can see in the crowd. You can see in Kate there as well, and touching her heart. And clearly they were very moved by the flowers and the notes that they just scanned right there at the gates. Our royal correspondent and anchor Max Foster also with us again, as well as historian Kate Williams. So Max, to you, this was what we understand to be a very spontaneous event. At least none of us and the public didn't seem to know this was going to happen, but here we go with the 2 grandsons there and their wives. This is pretty poignant.
Not that spontaneous, but obviously unannounced because of the security
right.
concerns here. What I was surprised about, if I'm honest, is seeing the Sussexes there too. I mean, there've been so many seismic moments in terms of royal history over the last couple of days, of course, but this is certainly one of them. If you imagine the big rift in the royal family between the Sussexes and the then Cambridges was utterly defining and damaging and hugely upsetting to the Queen. For us to see Meghan and Harry there reunite with Kate and William is a huge moment, and hopefully a sign of things to come and rifts being healed within the family. I mean, it's utterly preoccupied the family. There was tension between Harry and Meghan and Charles, but that was resolved, I think, largely around the Jubilee when they met up, but there was this ongoing tension between Harry and William, and we're seeing, I don't know if that's resolved, but it's resolved enough to the extent where they're able to come out and appear in public together. This is an absolutely huge moment. They're putting their differences behind them, and I think this will go down incredibly well with the public, because whatever anyone says about the royal family and who everyone's interested in, ultimately it's the Queen that everyone revered. And I think this will be seen as a hugely respectful thing to do for Her Majesty, the late Her Majesty. And it was something if she could see, I'm sure would be massively warming and heartwarming for her.